Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've heard from all of you that the Chinese government has a systematic campaign of stealing American intelligence, intellectual property to advance their economy, and that our DOE labs are targeted for this kind of effort. But I want to point out, as some of you have pointed out, the sensitivities involved and the balance that is required. So it is important to deter Chinese government wrongdoing and prosecute espionage and theft, but our concern is about the Chinese government's actions, not Chinese people. And we must avoid misguided prosecutions, such as what was undertaken by the Justice Department and the previous administration with their China initiative. Going after researchers on shoddy evidence will hurt, not help American innovation by sending the best minds elsewhere. So listening to some of the responses that you've provided already on this subject, for Secretary Mr. Turk, you say that we are going forward with eyes wide open, and we have some proactive steps that the DOE has taken. So do you consider these steps to be adequate to protect us from the kind of intellectual property espionage engaged by entities such as China and perhaps Russia, Iran?
Well, you're right to say it's not just China. There's others as well, of course, Russia, Iran, North Korea, et cetera. And I think the short answer and the honest answer is we always need to do more, right? The threat is evolving, and we need to evolve our responses accordingly, which is why I mentioned this risk matrix. We are annually updating that risk matrix now so that we make sure that we are updating in terms of what technologies we consider sensitive, what protocols we have in place. We have a standing group now made up of folks from throughout the labs and DOE headquarters to take a look and continually provide ideas to the Secretary and myself so that we can continually improve. So we just need to improve on a regular basis, on a continual basis, and as you say rightly, get that balance right.
Because with the China initiative, I would say that we did not get the balance right. And in fact, the message to the Chinese community and the AAPI community was that here's our government targeting these people. And it created an environment where AA and HPI people were targeted for various kinds of abuse, to say the least. For Mr. Stevens, in the wake of the devastating fire on Maui, residents have been subject to disinformation on social media, likely coordinated by foreign governments, governmental entities, and generated with AI to discourage residents from reaching out to FEMA for disaster assistance and to sow distrust in the federal government. Are you aware that this happened in the wake of the Maui disaster?
Absolutely.
Yes, so, at this point, with more of these kinds of natural disasters occurring with much more devastating results, we can expect that there will be probably these kinds of misinformation to sow distrust in our own government. So how can we use AR or other tools to rapidly detect and counter such efforts to spread disinformation, especially in emergencies or following disasters?
So I think we have to take several steps. One is to have advanced systems for detection of synthetic or deepfake information, right? Non-true information that gets disseminated. We should uphold the existing laws that prevent that kind of information legally from being disseminated through social media channels. We need to enforce watermarking, this technique of putting secret information in AI-generated output so we can detect when it's generated by AI. And we need to make headway on watermarking official sources, that is, official news that comes from governments or from responsible parties, so that it can be detected automatically that that is true and correct information coming out, distinguish it from misinformation that's generated by AI. So there's a multiple layered approach to protecting the citizens from disinformation, and we have to do all of those things.
Do you think, Secretary Turk, that we already have these kinds of systems in place? Because, as I mentioned, these kinds of natural disasters are occurring more frequently with more devastating results. You can't have all this misinformation out there stopping people from accessing the very kind of help that they need Do we have these kinds of counter systems already in place?
So honestly, we have some of them in place, not just the Department of Energy, but others across the government, but not as much as we need to. Absolutely. And what Professor Stevens, I think, is exactly right. We need a layered approach, and we need to continually update and improve that. And frankly, have the capabilities like we're talking about in this FAST proposal in the U.S. government so that we can do the kinds of monitoring, we can do the kinds of analysis that allows us, not only the Department of Energy, but others across the government to have the information and the tools to do the watermarking and other mitigation efforts.
Do the other two panel members want to weigh in on this concern that we have following disasters, that there are entities such as Russia that are spreading misinformation to people who are already in great pain? No? You agree that we need to put in place ways that we can counter this kind of misinformation?
Right. I think the challenge of misinformation with these tools, as I mentioned in my testimony, my written testimony, with the recent reports about what was happening with Facebook and other kinds of social media, we see misinformation across a wide range of topic areas, from the natural disasters to, as I mentioned in my opening statement, all kinds of activities that the U.S. government are either doing or putting in place. So I think it's a growing issue.
Yes, I want to note that in the case of Maui, the family of federal agencies were there, over 25 or so agencies with over 1,000 personnel, and yet there was all this disinformation out there saying that the response was lacking. And so this kind of sowing of mistrust by, I'd say Russia was a big actor in this instance. Once again, for Mr. Stevens, I just want to note that your testimony highlighted some of the ways that AI can provide breathtaking opportunities for technological innovation, but what are Argonne and the other DOE national labs doing to ensure that the technologies you are helping to develop are accessible to small businesses to help them innovate?
So we're very concerned about the availability of small businesses and students and so on to learn about AI and to use AI. I think this concept is often called democratization of access. The different DOE labs have different programs to make access to our computing facilities and AI models that we produce that are open, that are safe and secure, available to those communities, and we provide help for those communities, whether it's small businesses or whether it's local governments, to gain access to our systems to do that. And I think it's an ongoing effort. I think there more needs to be done there, and I think DOE, working in concert with other agencies, particularly NSF, via something like the NAIR initiative, could actually make a big impact on that, and it's something that we should do together.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.